Hey, everybody. Richard Harris here. This is a weird special edition of the Surf and Sales podcast because Scott had to bail. We hope you're feeling better, buddy. We love you. We miss you. We know you'll be better. But here with a new friend of mine, Tyler Bennet. And so Tyler and I just decided that we'll reschedule the podcast. However, I said, Tyler, we're here. Why don't you ask me some questions if you want? So Tyler's got some questions, and so we're going to record it. Quick shout out to his sponsors of Scratchpad, Sendoso, Outreach.io, and Vidyard. We appreciate all their support. Anyway, so Tyler, what do you want to ask? Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you think about your email newsletter and what what are you trying to achieve with it, separate from what you're trying to achieve from other outreach channels. And then is it still in the infancy stages, or are you getting what you're looking for?
So it's a great question. I started the newsletter way too late. I should have started it when I started my business. So for all those people who are thinking of doing side hustles or doing side hustles, collect every email address now and start a newsletter, even if you have 25 people. Doesn't matter. Just start it to get your muscle exercise. That's my first piece of advice. I started because I had a lot of email addresses and I'm like, well, what do I do with all this shit? Like, it's an opportunity to stay in front of people. Yeah, maybe I'll get some business out of it. It reinforces stuff if they see me on other social channels like LinkedIn or Instagram. So it just sort of keeps my name out there. Like that was the whole point. And so I started and just started putting it out there. Interestingly enough, about a year or so ago, this is 2022 right now. So last year, actually through the Surf and Sales podcast, we started selling sponsorships. Scott and I did, and part of the things we would include are like my newsletter, like, hey, if you do this, you get to put a blurb in Richard's newsletter, and then we've evolved that, and that the Surf and Sales needed to be its own business separate of Richard Harris and Scott and all this stuff, and we threw a bunch of shit. So it used to be that for Surf and Sales sponsorships, you'd get sponsorships and mentions, and we'd throw in some master classes with your teams, and we'd write some blog posts, and you could write blog posts on we just gave away everything, which is cool because we wanted to see what it was, and we included my newsletter sponsorship. Once we decided to sort of separate the two, I went ahead and kept going with the newsletter sponsorship, and I've had several people stick with it. They like it. Like they like the idea that, hey, they can get in front of the people I know. They can write it has to be thought leader. They can have a link that goes to their website so they can track it. And it's a way for them to stay in front of other people. And it's a way for me to add value to people that I don't have to think quite so hard, like, be honest with you, right? I don't, there's always a Richard's thoughts in my newsletter, which is cool, but I want to give several pieces of advice, not just one. I'm sort of the Amazon style of newsletters as opposed to just one diatribe. So that's what's happened. So it's certainly performed better than I ever thought it would because of the sponsor. I'm like, oh, all right, someone wants to pay me a little bit. Sure. Why wouldn't I take that? I'm going to write a newsletter anyway. Has it generated a ton of business? I don't know that I've had somebody say, hey, because of your newsletter, I'm coming to ask you for help. That being said, I can't say that hasn't happened. Right. I track stuff to LinkedIn and to Sales Hacker where I get leads, or to Google, but I've never really gone back to do that deep of analysis. And whenever I ask someone, because I'll ask everybody, like, how'd you find me? What made you want to choose us? Nobody has said, oh, it's because I get your newsletter yet. Some people will say, oh, I've seen you on Modern Sales Pros, or I've seen you on LinkedIn. So in my mind, there's the possibility they've gotten the newsletter. So for me, it's more about just awareness, letting people know they have access to me if they want it. That's the genesis of the newsletter piece.
Well, I'll give you a piece of attribution. I follow the newsletter, and that's where the vast majority of my connection to you comes from. So
how did you even hear about the newsletter, though? Like, that's always an interesting piece.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not even sure. It was probably on somebody's LinkedIn post, or you commented on a LinkedIn post, or somebody commented on a promotive piece that you put, perhaps, because I do spend some energy on LinkedIn, so that's probably where it came from. But when I think of you, I definitely think of the newsletter more than any other channel.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So it's out there, whether it's being measured or tracked or not.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. What else can I share with you?
When you think about getting out there to that exact sort of that point, I mean, obviously there's value in controlling your ecosystem at some level, right? Capturing those conversations, but from when you think about establishing success metrics for yourself, how do you walk the line of, hey, I work for myself, I'm not accountable to somebody else's number, somebody else's this? What are you chasing? I guess is what I'm asking when you're looking at, when you spend your career in in revenue leadership. Obviously, we're also number focused or metric or KPI focused. How do you give it yourself?
Yeah, so I think I'm wired differently. I don't know. People would have to tell me, like there have to be some survey. Well, first of all, I do report to somebody. I report to my family and my expenses. And I had to figure out what I was worth in the marketplace, so I know what my value is. I'm not driven like some people to, oh, let me go hire someone else to do what I do, right? And have a rep. Now, that being said, Tyler, if you said, hey, Richard, I want to go be a trainer for you and I want to go, use your content and incorporate mine, and, dude, I'm down. We can have that conversation. But I've never wanted to grow it, at a level of having employees and all that stuff, because I just got tired of, I don't want to go look at fucking insurance and doing payroll and just like all that minutia shit. So that's a piece of it for me. So it's a little bit more of a lifestyle as opposed to my buddy John Barrows, which I think he started as a lifestyle, and how I got started, he's the one who told me I could do this. And then he's decided to grow it, and he's become a media company, which I totally love and respect. I just don't know if I want that much pressure. So what am I chasing? I'm chasing happiness. And for me, that is the happiness of having my own business, the happiness of being able to live a lifestyle I want. I don't have to worry about when and how I take vacations. I can do surf and sales 3 times a year with Scott. Nobody's going to tell me I can't take 3 weeks off, plus my regular vacations. So I'm chasing happiness. And so for me, that's really, really important. That being said, I'm also chasing some revenue levels. Like, how do I grow? And this is the part where, I compete with Scott and I get jealous of Scott. And he knows this. Like, I would say this if he were here. If he listens to it, it'll be interesting to see what his thing is. I will often, I said, in another conversation that, oftentimes I give Scott ideas and then he knows how to 10x it. Scott is very good at, success can be determined by the distance between idea and execution. I have ideas. I'm terrible at execution. I don't want to do one more thing, right? So here's an example. A couple of years ago when COVID started, I decided to go out and do some free training. I just posted, I'm going to do free training, everybody. I know it's a tough time. I'm hoping this will help you. I had about 1,500 people register. Right. Which is great. Like, it's amazing. Like, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Blew Scott's mind. I had to call Scott. Scott, I need your help. I'm going to have 500 people on a webinar. I need you to navigate the chat and questions and stuff. And if I'd have been smarter, I'd have turned that 1,500 into a Patreon group for $10 a month. If I'd have been smarter, I'd have created my version of a Thursday night sales. But I didn't want to do one more thing. And this has probably been the challenge of Richard for a very long time. So this is a long answer to your question, so I apologize, but that's sort of how things are at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because when I hear chasing happiness, right, it's a perpetual run, and sometimes the direction of where happiness is changes, right? Happiness tomorrow might be different, might look different than
totally
today,
totally.
Right?
And then the other part of it is, well, when am I allowed to be happy? Do I catch it? Do I get it? And I think, for me, I think me, Tyler, that I talk about mental health a lot, and my own challenges with depression. For someone like me, I think like that's what chasing happiness is. It's a way to navigate my own inner demons and thoughts. And by the way, I say that I don't want to hurt myself or hurt anybody else. For those listening, for people who think, oh my God, what are his demons? No, my demons are sadness. Like, I'm not happy. And anyways, we could go into a different area, but the chasing happiness, which is actually a friend of mine wrote a song about it. And I really liked it. So that's my definition.
Yeah, and then how do you keep yourself accountable to, you talk about taking vacations and then surf and sales in the same sentence, where, from my standpoint, surf and sales is a really luxurious work week, right? That there, if it's being I know what it takes to put on events, no matter how wonderful the environment is and how fun it is when you get there, to make it fun for everybody else. It's a lot of work that goes in.
It is, and again, this is a huge piece of Jeff. Like, Jeff is our logistics guy. If you don't know Jeff Coleman, please look him up on LinkedIn, follow him. Smart guy, but he's the guy who's like renting the houses and coordinating, everybody's flight schedules, to organize the vans from the airport, to who's staying in which house, to running the budgets, to the P&L. Like, Jeff is that guy. Mm-hmm. And so if people, everybody, eventually somebody forgets something. I forgot toothpaste, or I forgot that, Jeff's the one running to the store. He is there for content. He's not totally behind the scenes. He is doing content, and he's participating with the group and bonding and sharing all kinds of great perspectives. So that makes it easier to some extent.
Sure.
When we built Surf and Sales as the event, I don't think it was intentional. Maybe it was. Maybe Jeff said, I don't need to be the face guy of it. You guys should go do it because you guys have the community. And Scott and I certainly post and share more on LinkedIn than Jeff does. But the fact that Jeff can handle all that lets Scott and I do that other piece. So because you're right, it takes a lot of work. We also don't make it an all-day thing, right? There's only 4 hours of content each day. If there were 8 hours of content, it would suck.
That's a different world. Yeah.
This is a whole, what the other 4 hours of content is? Hanging out, having a conversation like you and I are having, Tyler. Like, oh, you know what? We're taking a break. We're sitting on surfboards waiting for a wave. Great. Let's have this kind of conversation. Or we're sitting on the beach, or it's after dinner or during dinner, like that. And that to me doesn't feel like work. That feels giving and learning from each other, not in the sense of, hey, Tyler should be so happy to talk to Richard, but more like, I'm just as equally happy to talk to Tyler because I don't know Tyler. I've never met Tyler. I don't know someone like Tyler. Tyler is who Tyler is. And I want to learn from him, or any woman who shows up. So, or any gender that shows up. We don't care. So anyway, so that's, it is a little bit, it's work, trust me,
Oh yeah.
I think the hardest part that I have, and I know Scott does, is that we feel like we're constantly on, right? And which is okay. Like, we don't mind it. We've also built into the schedule, nap time after lunch and siesta. So we do have moments to like go debrief,
decompress for a minute.
Right. Not to mention that's part of what the surfing is, right? Like, you're not out there, you and I might be sitting there for five minutes having a conversation, but we're not sitting there for 20, right? And and even if we're still catching waves, and we're sitting on surfboards in Costa Rica at sunset. Is that really hard work? No. Is that even work? No. So anyway, yeah.
I mean, but being on is a thing to manage, right? I mean, being in President's Club when you're the host, or I think of it as
that's a very different thing, right? Like that's and I think Scott was the instigator of this too, is that he wanted it to be smaller by design. He wanted it to be intimate. He wanted it to be about bonding and community. And we've talked about, we could go to Cabo and bring 30 or 40 people, but then is it the same experience? Do I get to sit down and talk to all 15 people for an hour or more?
Yeah.
No. And so we've really been conscious of like, it's an experience, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that is definitely a difference when you have 30 or 40 people, even though the pictures may look the same with the background.
And there'd be a ton more logistics behind it too. Like,
no question.
We would need to get Jeff some help.
Yeah. As soon as you start putting 20 or 30 people in a place, everything gets harder. Vans are harder, the boats are hard, everything is harder.
Yep. So cool, man. Anything else I can share? Sort of a fun, interesting way to do a podcast. So we'll still do a formal one with Scott, but
All good. No, I appreciate, I expected nothing less than an open book and a healthy conversation, but I appreciate the insights and your willingness to answer whatever my curiosity piqued.
Yeah, man, that's cool, man. It's nice to meet you, and thanks for your flexibility to reschedule. And I'm glad we were able to, give you a little something on a Friday. And nice to meet you.
Right on. You as well, Richard.
Thanks, man. And quick shout out also to our sponsors of Vidyard, Outreach, Sendoso, and Scratchpad. We appreciate all their support. Folks, please go check them out as you are looking for your next round of efficiency and effectiveness tools in the sales arena. Boy, that sounded just like a pitch and commercial. So, all right, Tyler. Thanks,
Right on.
man.
All right. Have a good Friday.
You too,
Cheers.
bud. Bye.